And good evening, everyone, to another Tuesday Night Live. I will pass you over to our inimitable host, Peter J. How you going, Peter?
Thank you very much, Phoenix, and welcome everybody to another edition of the Tuesday Night Live Adelaide Big Footy Crowcast. Great to have everybody along for another big night of chat and all things Adelaide Crows. Now, joining us this evening is the usual crew. We've got Nikki, Macca and Phoenix. And how are you all tonight? There's a horrible feedback there, so if I'm just stuttering a bit, that's why.
I'm well. How are you guys? Oh, there is a feedback going on.
Yeah, I'm well.
Everybody's very echoey.
Okay, we'll try and move along there. It's a little bit difficult, but anyway, great show coming up tonight. Phoenix, am I allowed to announce our special guest tonight?
No, but is that better?
That's much better. Thanks very much.
Sorry. Yeah, you can, mate, if you like.
Very, very excited tonight on the Crowcast to have our very special guest, Jake Lever, young Adelaide defender, is coming on this evening and having a chat to us. So make sure you stay tuned for that. And we'll also have our normal segments. We'll have the Cockwomble Num Nut of the Week, and we'll have a bit of news from Nikki, and we'll have previews and reviews of the games. So it's all the usual stuff on Tuesday Night Live, and always happy to get your comments as well. Anything you want us to raise, log on and give us a comment, and we'll have a chat about it. All right, without further ado, shall we go to a little bit of news from Nikki?
Oh, I missed that music. That's a throwback to last year. Thanks, Phoenix. I think the big news that everybody's kind of talking about and getting a bit upset is Hawkins getting the one match ban, and they were still going on about it on AFL 360 tonight. Robbo can't understand why punching somebody in the neck intentionally, well off the ball, shouldn't actually serve as suspension. He thinks it's soft.
But, Nicky, it was soft. You know, seriously, Davis should get an Academy Award for acting. No, he wouldn't. It was a rotten piece of acting, actually.
Know, Macca, I'm going to hold you up on that because for the simple fact is if he was acting, he wouldn't have been actually hunched over and had to have medical staff come and attend to him because he was actually having trouble breathing. So he did actually get hit with enough force to cause an issue.
I'd give him another one for luck for his acting.
But we know Davis, he's not somebody who will do that.
It's interesting. There was a big debate between Bartlett and that absolute dickhead Patrick Smith on SEN this morning about this. God, I hate Patrick Smith. He's a bloody cock-wombling freaking numbnut of the year. And I agree with KB, actually. I reckon any throat hit deserves a bit more scrutiny than a stomach punch. And even I reckon they should just make it easy. If it's off the ball and it's unexpected contact, then you're gone. Simple.
I would agree with you on that. Yeah, I reckon that's what it should be because I'm not saying that Hawkins shouldn't have been reported. He should have, and he should have got probably maybe one game, I thought maybe. But the fact that Tom Lynch of the Gold Coast, he punches a bloke in the guts right in front of the umpire, and that was reasonable force. And he should have definitely got cited. He should have got at least one game for that. And I agree with what you said.
I think any strike where it is off the ball, and particularly these gut punches, because that's what players are doing now because they only get a fine and they're still eligible. So they're doing it with impunity in a way. The AFL's kind of caused this problem all on their own because of that. And so, yes, I agree with you there that Lynch should have been done. I actually think why they did the 2 weeks on Hawkins was to make sure he got one.
Yeah, quite possible. But
the other
it's
thing
just
that
so
I just
inconsistent.
Yeah, and I think because everybody's comparing it to the gut punches and the gut punches are getting off with a fine, yes, I agree that is wrong, but you can't compare the two because the AFL are actually making a difference between the two. So you've kind of got to take them as separate arguments. And that's the problem, is that they keep trying to compare. And the AFL has always been very strong about the match review panel, is that there is no such thing as precedent. You cannot argue if you're going in to defend yourself, but this person did exactly the same thing and you only gave them that time. They won't accept it.
Yeah, the whole thing has got to be cleaned up, because it's basically couched around who they don't want to miss out on a Brownlow. And I think if they make it cut and dried, unwarranted or unexpected contact, then just give them a week and be done with it.
Yeah, that gets my vote too.
Now, Brisbane has asked for a priority pick, and I think they've got a lot more issues than just that up there. And the other interesting thing is people are starting to do the coach watch regarding Buckley and Hardwick. And it was very interesting. Now, a lot of people don't know about this, but there's a little something called the squiggle, which you can go to maxbarry.com/squiggle. And what it does is it tracks a team's movement in terms of who they've beat, and it looks actually at history, and it's pretty damn good in terms of accuracy. And what they do is he's just recently done a little tracking on how the coaches have fared since they've taken over the team. And it's interesting watching Collingwood just go absolutely down. They started up high and just have dropped so far. Richmond have been very similar. It's just nuts in terms of those particular teams. Melbourne have kind of dropped around a bit. So I actually think that we may actually see some coach movement before the end of the year.
Well, you raised several things here, though, Nicky. One is, for example, about the priority pick. And I don't think Brisbane deserves anything. I mean, they've appointed some pretty lousy coaches, in my opinion. So why the hell would you give them a priority pick if they're going to just waste it by appointing guys that can't do the job? I think the draft is compromised enough as it is, and no, I wouldn't get. There's no way I'd give them a priority pick. That's the first thing. I actually lost my train of thought. What the other one was, Nikki?
Well, the interesting thing for me is that I think the AFL very much have created a problem when they created Gold Coast. Queensland can only afford to have one team. There's too many other competing interests up there. And also, once they bowed to pressure from the Victorian clubs and took away their ability to their retention allowance, it really has they've just fallen in a heap because of it. They've lost so many players, and I don't think the AFL's ever going to admit that they made a mistake there and correct it.
No, and it's a bit of no turning back now too. I mean, I don't see them winding up Gold Coast anytime soon. But you're right. Queensland can't carry two teams. But, here we are. So I agree with you, Macca. I don't think Brisbane should be rewarded for their own stupidity over the last 3 or 4 years. And I just think it's time for clubs to trade their way out of things, and priority picks should be an absolutely last resort, or even taken off the table altogether. There's been lots of Melbourne clubs that have benefited from the past, and really, Melbourne, the amount of picks that they've got, they haven't really made the most of them. I just think there's enough unequal factors in the draft already without handing another one. The interesting question is whether Essendon should actually get the first pick, given their unique set of circumstances.
Stuff it.
Yeah, I can see why you say that, because they're going to finish bottom because of the virtue as a penalty for doing the wrong thing. They did the wrong thing and they had to pay a price for that. But I suppose that's very similar to Carlton, who ended up they had to serve a penalty when they were caught cheating the salary cap, and they were allowed to have the number one draft pick eventually, because you just can't keep punishing forever. So I think they've had their punishment, and I think they should be allowed to get it.
Yeah, the difference is though, Macca, that Essendon are getting a bunch of players back next year, all Australians, long-standing players that would be top 10 if they went in the draft now. They're already benefiting from a bunch of players coming back. They're not the worst team in the competition if their whole list is available. They're only the worst team in the competition because of their own bloody cheating, basically. So this is a lot different to the Carlton situation where they just lost picks, and even us, where we just lost picks. Essendon have only gotten to the bottom of the table because of the loss of players that they're getting back next year. So you want to give them Hurley and Heppel and all that back, plus you want to give them a first-round pick? I don't reckon. A first pick? I don't reckon.
You virtually shot me up the arse straight away.
Well,
and they also, Macca, they actually haven't been punished for doping.
Whoop, whoop, whoop. Sorry, alarm went off. Essendon doping story. Talk. Got to cut that out. In fact, what I'm going to do is that's going to be a warning bell. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap that segment right up. And speaking of high draft picks, we're going to move right along and we're going to get it back to all things Adelaide Crows. And we're really, really excited this afternoon and really, really happy to be able to announce to all the listeners that we had a very, very special guest that we had the opportunity of interviewing today, and that was none other than high draft pick himself from last year, the year before, Jake Lever. So without further ado, guys, I think if everyone's okay with it, I might just intro this interview. What do you think, Phoenix?
Sounds good to me. Let's go.
First game. Just needs to control it. Good tackle, important Lever. Right there with him. Danger averted, Lever. Oh, that was clever. Young player, showed some poise. Good attack again, Lever. Just made it his. Dunstan closed in quickly. Lever did a good job.
Lever gets to the front and takes a good mark. It's a good kid, this one.
Talia wasn't sure where to go. And he got the support he needed at the last moment from Lever.
Good composure for a kid.
Absolutely. First game, and he looks the goods, Jake Lever, and he is.
Lever did really well, pelting it away.
Sends him to the square. Huge fist. Big fist away by Lever. Nunes, who's kicked the goal already. Tough one here. How hard was that? Loney coming one way, and he's down and still in a lot of pain. One here. How hard was that?
Thanks very much, Phoenix, and thanks for that audio. Some terrific highlights there of our guest this evening, Young Crows defender Jake Lever. How are you, Jake?
Good, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on the show.
Fantastic to have you on board. And just wondering, the fact that you're on the lowly Crowcast, would that be related to your attempts to try and brag about that 30-possession game on the weekend?
No, I've been getting a bit of stick about this, but I'm not sure probably everyone's seen Tex Walker's tweet, but I said on radio last night that there was a comment mentioned sort of like that, but definitely not the mayo that the big Texan put on it.
He has put a bit of mayo on it for you, and obviously that was where we picked it up from. Just out of curiosity, just delving back into your younger days, Jake, have you had any games back then that we have recorded that kind of possession count?
No, I haven't actually. So 30, definitely my highest. Since I guess I was recording stats when you played TSC Cup and all that. I never had 30, so to have 30 on the weekend, it was good, but it was just good to play the way we did, and it was just a great team performance, I thought, because there was 22 blokes out there that played their role, and we're just looking forward to this week.
Mate, you're only a little bit taller than some of our midfielders going around these days, and even like blokes like Patrick Cripps and blokes like that in other teams. Do you reckon at some stage you're going to be eyeing off a role in the midfield with those sort of numbers?
I don't think so. I guess early speaking, that's definitely not in anything that I'm looking at, or Pods or Pikey has been looking at. But yeah, as you said, there's some big fellas playing in the midfield at the moment. As you said, there was Paddy Cripps, Marcus Bontempelli, Nat Fife. These blokes are 191 to 194. And that's what I am, about 194 now. So it is interesting to see them sort of midfielders running around. But at the moment, no, just focusing on learning my craft in the back line and just playing my role for the team each week.
Am I right in saying that you played a bit of midfield as a junior?
Early days, sort of talking about under 12 to under 14s there, yeah, midfield, but never since I went into sort of elite programs through the Calder Cannons or Vic Metro, I never played midfield. I was generally a forward or a back, and that's been my role ever since sort of I hit 15, 16 when I had a little bit of a growth spurt.
Yeah. Is it fair to say some of your teammates there might suggest that you'd need to learn how to handball in order to get into the mids?
Yeah, probably. Most of the boys down back, they give me a bit of stick about not handball, and they reckon I sell too much candy. So I said last night I'll have to rein that in a bit because the boys at the moment, they reckon I don't know how to handball, so I might have to have a bit more handball this week.
Jake, it's Macca here. The question I'd like to actually ask you is, I know right from the very first game that you played that you had no hesitation in telling senior players, pick up that bloke, so-and-so's free, get over there. And it was like leadership came very naturally to you. And is that something that you do aspire to down the track, that possibly either to be a captain or a vice captain or in the leading group? Do you have aspirations in that direction?
I think going to your point about telling blokes where to go and all that sort of stuff, I think it's you ask any player, it's vital that you have leadership skills because at some stages throughout the game, your teammates or someone's going to switch off throughout the game, so you have to be able to know the structures and know what you're doing, because it's really important out in game day, because it's not like basketball and you can take a time out and reset. You're out there for 28 to 33, 34 minutes, whatever the quarters go for. And it's really important that you know what to do. And going back to leadership aspirations, yeah, obviously I find that one of my strengths that I bring to a football team. So I think down the track, yeah, definitely. But I think at the moment I'm just trying to, as I said before, learn my craft and really focus on just doing what I have to do to stay in the team and perform best for the team.
Thanks for that, mate.
Now, part of that, though, is what I think is, did your time out with your ACL where you actually did some coaching, do you think that's actually helped you along with that?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, when I did my ACL, my mind was ticking on, what am I going to do for a whole year? And I think after sitting out for 3 months early on in the year and trying to think about what I wanted to do, that coaching role was with the Cannons and both Vic Metro. It was definitely it's just helped me so much in understanding, I guess, what coaches want from players, because as a player you sort of think you don't know what the coaches want from you sometimes, but I guess when you get put in the coach's shoes, you sort of understand as a player. Then you're like, okay, well that's what he wants from me. He's not trying to yell at me aggressively. He's just trying to teach me, and I think that definitely has helped my not only my leadership aspirations and skills, but definitely just my knowledge of the game. So that was a really important 3 months that I coached for. It was great.
And being the eldest of 4 kids, that probably helps a bit too.
Yeah, definitely. When Mum and Dad used to go off to work, it was always me helping my little brothers and sister out, packing lunches, whatever it was for school. So I guess, yeah, as the oldest kid, you do have to learn how to tell people what to do. I guess, definitely.
Jake, just wondering how you're finding the city of Adelaide coming over from interstate, and what you might like about the city, and what areas you might sort of get around to, and what's been appealing in the time you have away from football around the place.
Yeah, so obviously moved to Adelaide a year and a half ago, and it's been fantastic. You know, it's a great little city, and I think a lot of the people ask me, do I miss Melbourne? I guess for me, I lived an hour and a half away from the city, so I wasn't really a big city slicker, as they called them in Melbourne. So I was more country, and just moving here, it's almost, there's a cliche that goes around. It's like a big country town, and that's exactly what it's been. And the people in Adelaide, not only the football club, but everyone here has just helped me fit in so much. And, places I like to get around. I like going down south. I love going to Port Elliot. I go down to Horseshoe Bay there and spend most summer weekends there, just sitting on the beach, relaxing. But I've also been up north to the Barossa Valley and all that with my partner that moved over with me. So she's right into the wine tour. So I usually drive her and her friends up and spend the day with them. So it's I guess any direction you go in Adelaide, it's either wine or beaches. So it's great.
Yeah, just on that, mate, we've noticed a number of the lads are spotted at SANFL games quite regularly, and we've noticed, like when Alex Keith debuted, you guys got around him a fair bit, the defenders in particular. Is that something that is just naturally come about at the team, or you guys encouraged to do that sort of stuff?
I think it's really important to support everyone in the on your squad, because I think Hawthorn said it last year. It's everyone on your squad that wins you a premiership. So it's not just the 22 blokes that plays. It's everyone that's involved throughout the year. So it's really important for our football club. We like to get and support the boys, and Keithy, perfect example. When he played his first game, we were pumped because we seen him train in the pre-season. Obviously, he did limited pre-season, but what he did, we were really excited about. And once he got down there, he showed what he was capable of.
So I guess, is that something that's impressed you about the club in general, the culture and the mateship around the place? Is that something you guys try to foster and cultivate?
Yeah, definitely. I think as soon as I come into the club, I knew that it was a great culture, and all the boys were really close, and there was no real dividing in the group. It was just everyone united as one, and I think that's what I've loved about the football club so far, that everyone fits in, and obviously through the tragedy of last year, I think that brought us closer together, and we just love playing with each other each week, and I think that's how you build success, through a uniting group and a really positive attitude towards everyone.
Yeah.
Jake, one thing I have picked up is that when you take a mark in, as you go backward, you're sort of moving slightly side to side without going off the line. Is that to size up your options, I guess? But is that from your boxing background, that you always had to be on your toes and keep on moving all the time?
To tell you the truth, mate, I didn't notice I did that. But I guess, yeah, it's. I guess when I did do boxing, it was really good for me in that sort of sense, when I, being on your toes all the time, and I guess your reaction time gets a bit better when you're in the ring, because you just don't want to get hit. So I think just the boxing helped my football so much when I was doing it. So I still do it to this day. Either on my day off or in the morning up at the stairs with the bag and that we've got at the club. So it does help. But yeah, to tell you the truth, mate, you've noticed something that I haven't. I guess, just to size up my options, trying to get my feet moving to kick through the ball rather than lean back.
Yeah, you're light on your feet, and you do pick up the options very, very, very well. The other thing is that you're very, very good at selling the candy, and I guess once again that comes back from your boxing.
Yeah, I don't think the boys would like to hear this, that everyone's commenting on my candy selling. But yeah, I think I don't know. Sometimes I just don't mean to do it. I mean to handball, and then they sort of jump, and I just grab the ball back a little bit. So I'm not sure that's come from my boxing, but definitely, yeah, I'm not sure the boys will be too happy about this.
don't let them rough you out of it.
Yeah, no, I won't. Definitely not.
Well, we've got another one on the list, so we weren't too sure who's better at selling candy, you or Junior.
Junior's pretty good at it.
He's very fond of it.
Yeah, he's a lot quicker than me too. I'm, throughout the club, I'm not the quickest bloke out there. So Junior's got a bit of pace on his side as well. So he might get the chocolates there with the salad and candy. He's another one that's just come in and embraced the program and really took strides forward this year in the way that he's playing. So I reckon he might get the chocolates with the candy salad then.
And just for a bit of fun, in your under-18 career, you've kind of claimed that you've managed to kick a goal because you kicked 6 points. And do you think that the other defenders, like in your little defensive group, they're holding you back from not giving you an opportunity in the AFL because of the hits you put on them during games? I mean, we can totally understand running into Landy because he is a bit small. But, are the others not giving you the option?
Yeah, Smithers has already got into me about this on another interview. I think he named about 5 instances last year where I've cleaned up players. So I think I've been pretty good this year. I might have cleaned up Kyle Hardigan against Hawthorn.
That's not a bad effort, mate.
Yeah, I know he's a big boy. So, but I think last year was. I think I was just almost see ball just go and didn't really know where my teammates were. And I think that's one thing I worked on throughout pre-season, just to be able to know when it's my turn to go and not run into blokes. So, but I'm not sure they're not giving me the ball to kick a goal because of that. But I definitely know Kyle Hardigan and Cole Cheney don't want me to kick a goal because at the moment they've got the longest length of games without kicking a goal. I think Cole Cheney just notched up his 50th game without kicking a goal, and Kyle Hardigan hasn't kicked a goal yet, and he's at about 36 or 7 games. So they don't want me to kick a goal because they reckon I might be able to take over their mantle of being the bloke that hasn't kicked a goal in the longest game.
When Talia sort of drifts down to kick one, do you kind of want to trip him over or something, or?
I almost wish he goes down with a hamstring or something so I can run next to him and take the kick.
See, we're going to tweet that comment.
I had an opportunity against the Gold Coast to kick the goal. I had a flying snap and unfortunately missed, and the one against Hawthorn I give off to Paul Seaman because as I was going back I thought, God, this is a long way out. So I had to give it a big Cedo to let his leg kick through the goal. So it was... I try to claim the Paul Season goal at the moment. I've been trying to claim it.
So we're hearing the odd whisper that you may be the king pest that's now around the club, and that you might have taken that mantle. Would that have anything to do with the fact that you keep running into blokes, or is there any other standard that they aspire to in terms of making you the pest?
I think when I first got to the club, I was just obviously being an 18-year-old kid that obviously dreamt about playing AFL, and then you're walking in a club and you're either driving in with blokes like Rory Sloane, or you're walking into the locker room and Tex Walker's there or Eddie Betts is there. I was just so overwhelmed for probably the first 2 or 3 months. I probably didn't say anything for my whole first year. I was a bit quiet off the field, and this year obviously the more you get comfortable you open up a little bit, but I'm not sure about the pest. I definitely think Brodie Smith's got that mantle still well and truly held.
Is it a title that people fight over now that Yancey's gone?
Yeah, I think Yancey was definitely the one that held it, but now there's a few nominations, and I don't think that you really want it after the Yench man had it.
Now, speaking of some loud people in a way, I was actually at your very first game when you played the trial game against Westies, and your dad's kind of impressive. particularly over the sidelines. And I love the fact that he was having a go, because I'd actually heard the Westies player call out that you had spaghetti arms. Are you someone who actually likes, besides that being a brilliant sledge, are you someone who actually likes having their family at games?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, with the Sample trial game, my dad probably got a bit vocal because he might have thought that everyone could hear him. But definitely at the AFL games, I don't hear anything from the crowd. I just hear lots of noise and everything, especially at Adelaide Oval when there's 50,000 fans there. But yeah, it's great for my family to come along and watch my games, and I think that's really important for the club to be able to get the family over and support you throughout, because you're always going to have good and bad games. So it's always good to get the family over, and they enjoy coming over to Adelaide.
Now, mate, just before we tidy it up, we have a couple of standard questions that we ask blokes that are good enough to come on the Crowcast. The first one, you might have answered it already, but the consensus seems to be that Tex is the best sledger in the club. Would that be a fair call, or is there another candidate there?
Tex is up the other end, so I reckon him and Tommy Lynch go all right at the sledging. Definitely down our end. Daniel Talia doesn't mind chirping, and I think it's always good to get involved in that sort of stuff. It's part of the game. It's always been part of the game. So, yeah, I'd say Lynchy and Tex would definitely be the best two at it.
What's the best one you've heard, mate, do you reckon? Which one do you rate the best?
I haven't really heard any out in the field. Lynchy always tries to get into me at training. He once told me that I was standing in the wrong spot as a defender while he was the forward and I was playing on him, and he rattled me because I didn't know if I was actually standing in the right spot. I was standing there. I was like, am I? And he came up to me after the training drill and he was like, you were standing in the right spot. I just got you. And I was like, fuck. So that was definitely the best one I've heard from, it was pointed at me because I didn't know what was going on. So, but yeah, out in the field, I don't hear too much, actually, to tell you the truth.
Have you copped any from opposition, mate?
Oh yeah, I cop it all the time. I get the old spaghetti arms, get in the gym, to name off a few. So yeah. Tyrone Vickery once come out with me that he rattled off about 5 stats about me defending or something, and I was standing there for about 10 minutes trying to work out what he was saying. So I think definitely it's a tactic the other team. They sort of try and get right into us, but we try not to take too much notice of it.
Yeah. Meanwhile, you've got 5 touches, and he's still chirping away. Hey, look, mate. The other one that we always ask is, you guys have got the sleep room down there, and we want to know if there was anyone in the club that you really would prefer not to spend any time in the sleep room with.
Well, that's a good question. I think Keenan Ramsey would definitely be one.
That's left field.
I wouldn't. Yeah, Keenan Ramsey. He's a bit annoying. He's a bit of a pest as well. So, and I reckon I've stayed with him before, and I reckon he snores a bit as well. So I don't think I'd like to spend too much time in the sleep room with the big fella.
Yeah, the consensus has been the Chief, really. Chief seems to be a bit of an army of one down there, but that's a nice little left field one from you, mate. Thanks.
No, definitely. No worries.
Jake, I'm sure I speak for all of us here when I say that we could talk to you for probably a good couple of hours, but you've been extremely generous with your time, and we're really, really grateful that you would come on the Crowcast and give us some really, really good insight into your game and to the team and to a few things that go on. So we really do appreciate your time, Jake, and thank you for coming on.
No, thanks very much for having me. I was thoroughly enjoyed myself. Thank you.
And that was our interview with Jake the Snake Lever. Excellent young man and did a fine job, and we really appreciate his time and the club making players available to us as usual. What do you think, guys? Pretty good?
I think he's a quality player. He's a quality individual, and he gave us a quality interview, I reckon.
Yeah, there was some very interesting things in there that he said that surprised me, particularly Talia being the one into sledging, because we have this impression of him being such a clean-cut, in a way, goody two-shoes. He's hard at the footy, but, sledging wasn't something that I would expect from him.
No, I was a bit surprised by that too, actually, I must admit. Taylor seems like such a mild-mannered sort of bloke, but interesting to hear that he gets on the chirp as well.
Well, we know that he hates being beaten in one-on-one contests, and he gets really, really dirty when it happens. So there is that competitive beast we kind of knew about, just not to that extent.
Yeah, and interesting again, another player commenting positively about the culture at the club, and I know they're not hardly going to bag the club, but all the players that we've had on so far this year have been very effusive about their praise about the culture down at the club and how tight-knit the blokes are, and the comment about going down and supporting the SANFL blokes is a real indicator that the club is really flying as one at the moment, to coin a phrase. So Pete, as he announced, unfortunately had to leave us, and I'll clean that up at some point down the track. But so we'll carry on, and I guess now we'll have a bit of a chat about the game that was.
Somehow got out. Lyons, good run. And they continue to run. Back to Lyons. Got him in the centre. He goes for home and nails it. Long bomb, Cheney towards Walker. McGovern! He's a beauty. He's a ripper. Spear into the middle might still work. Atkins, a little tap on and it does work. Miller along. And in the goal square, the big source. Jacobs, easiest goal he'll ever kick. The ball floated on him a bit. Walker, good spin back and a delightful release handball to Eddie Betts. Sends it goalward. It's long. It bounces on its end. From the goal line. It's been stolen from him by Josh Jenkins, who's got 5. And just banged forward by the source. Bounce will get him. And McGovern. Little tap. Walker. Little toe. Runs to the line and slips it through soccer style. Sits it up. Here's Eddie. He stays down.
Oh, what a grab. That's
for Josh Jenkins. The whole quarter being played in Adelaide's half because every Saints back, every time they get it outside 50, Adelaide players in the wall waiting for it. And Seedsman makes them pay.
There's a little recap of our shellacking of the Saints. Apologies that we had to actually feature Dwayne Russell on the Crowcast, but some things just can't be helped, and I couldn't find the 5AA audio, so never mind. It was a good win, wasn't it, guys?
Yeah, excellent win. We didn't do very much wrong during the game, apart from our goal kicking. We did miss too many set shots, and we could afford to because of who we played and the way the game went. But you must kick those goals because when you play quality teams, you'll pay for it. But apart from that, I was really happy with the way the whole. It was very, very hard to pick a player who didn't pull their weight because we've always got Henderson to fall back on in that direction. But I'm very, very happy with the team overall. I was a little bit disappointed with their coach, the way he stacked our forward lines to the point where I counted at one stage the whole 18 of their players were in our forward 50, and he was more about minimising the loss rather than getting these guys to try to battle through it. And I don't know that he really taught them anything by doing that. That's just my opinion. But overall, very happy with our guys.
For me, the goal kicking, though, being at the ground, it was quite swirly, and it was interesting that a couple of those set shots, we had a number of players from the similar area all missing kind of to that same side. So I think the wind was a little bit of a factor there.
Yeah, concentration was an issue too, though, I have to say. Being down that end of the ground, the one that Henderson missed, the one that JJ kicked into the post, I mean, they were too close for the wind to have a real factor, I think. But I agree, the wind was a bit dicey.
Yeah, but I still can't accept that because these guys are professionals. This is their job. This is what they get paid to do. And if you watch it under 14s games, under 16 games, these kids actually kick those goals. They kick a lot more than they miss. And it always amazes me, you go up to AFL level, it's undoubtedly the mental pressure, I think, that makes them miss more than the win.
Well, the one that was the shocker was Charlie Cameron's. He kicked that off his inside ankle just about. And they're the misses you don't want. I can accept a bloke just missing, by a ball width or two. But, God, he didn't even get close.
Well, it was the perfect right angle kick, actually.
Yeah, it was.
What I did like, though, is exactly how angry he was at himself.
Well,
he didn't accept it.
Well, that's only matched what we were thinking, Nikki.
True.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's interesting tonight because obviously the three of us discussed the game at length on the Wrap show on Sunday night. So I don't think there's too much more to add. I think, it was a good win for the club, and I think it was a confidence-boosting win for the club. But it probably can be left there, and the more pressing matter is the game ahead versus West Coast, for which I don't have any intro music because I ran out of time. So consider this now the segue into the game discussion on West Coast on the weekend.
You could have hummed it for us.
I could have, but I wouldn't do that to everyone.
Well, for me, it's going to be very interesting to see if Nick Nat comes up. They say he is, but an Achilles, that's kind of going to impact him quite strongly.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? You'd think that he couldn't get it as high off the ground. I mean, the guy is a flying machine when he's at his best, but I saw a vision of him walking on crutches there today, and it's hard to imagine that he's going to be able to get his normal leap into play.
Yeah, 75% Nat Newey is still a pretty good Nat Newey, though, but I agree.
It is.
Any advantage? I actually think West Coast are right for the picking this week. If there was ever a time where they were going to get done at their home ground, I think this is the week. They didn't play terribly well, I didn't think, against Western Bulldogs, even though they got relatively close. I don't think they're playing with a huge amount of confidence. I think their crowd gets them over the line across there pretty much. And I reckon our boys might be up for this one.
The interesting one, though, is their midfield. Their midfield, I reckon, is a very good midfield at home and a very average one away. And this is one of your pet things I would like to ask you about, Phoenix. Who should we have in the midfield?
Well, that's an interesting one, isn't it? Because it's pretty hard to change a winning lineup, and it's difficult to know who they're going to cast aside, assuming that they want to bring at least Tomo back in, which you would think that they would. Personally, I think it's almost a case we could almost carry an extra midfielder with Wayne Miller coming out. And I think Miller is the one that's going to come out to make way for another midfielder. And I think you'll find that we'll rotate Douglas and Jared Lyons a little bit through that half-forward role. Because I do think we need midfield depth this week. It's a long ground. You need to run hard. And I think Wayne has just kind of tailed off a little bit over the last couple of weeks and could probably do with the rest. So I could see that happening. What do you guys reckon?
Yeah, I reckon you got it in one. What do you think, Nick?
Interestingly, Miller actually led the round for goal assists.
How many?
3.
Well, shit. Keep him in then.
Well,
I just thought that was I knew it was only 3, but he led all across the AFL. Nobody got more goal assists than him. A few others got higher score assists.
Well,
goal assists he did.
You're the second one who just been shot up the backside.
Oh no, Macca, you can't. Sorry, no. You can't accuse me of doing that, Macca. That's a I think Miller has been playing really well. I just think he's just probably tailed off in terms of the amount of impact he's having on games over the past couple of weeks. Under normal circumstances, he'd be well and truly keeping his spot, but we've got to find a spot for Tomo this week, and I can't see any of our midfielders from last week making way. I mean, Matt Crouch, closed the door pretty firmly on that argument as far as he's concerned. I think Jared Lyons has earned his keep. Who else is there? So I think Miller is the one, if at all.
I totally agree with you.
Vardy Magic has suggested Douglas, and a lot of people are, but he's playing a very specific role for us. He's being our tagger. We don't admit that we've got a tagger, but it's him.
Well, the tag is very much back in vogue. North Melbourne, they started it with Jacobs, and he shut down some really big names. And because the game is played at a much more free-flowing pace than it was last year, and that's one of the benefits that's happened as a result of getting rid of the sub. The Stars are getting so much of the ball, it is necessary to put, in what Washies say, a cooler, but really it's just a tagger.
Yeah, I think it's a run-with role more than a hard tag, but certainly I think Dougie is that man at the moment, or seems to be that man, and, their midfield output, I noticed Pritis had less than 30 touches last week against the Bullies. I don't think their midfield actually held up to the Bulldogs' midfield terribly well last week. If we can keep their forward line quiet, that's where their strength is, in my opinion. I think brother of Mitch is still in doubt, isn't he? He was laid out with the virus, so he's going to be flat if he's playing. So I think we've got the forward power. I think as long as we can keep their forwards under control, we're in with a big show.
So here's the interesting stats. See, we don't have Danos tonight, so I'm going to pretend to partly be Danos. Last season, Talia only held Kennedy to 3 goals in the 2 games. And this season, according to Champion Data, Talia has only conceded 9 goals to direct opponents.
That's a pretty amazing stat, isn't it?
It speaks wonders for Talia. In fact, Talia's had a magnificent season, and he must be All-Australian at the moment, because he's actually not only defending as well as he ever has, but he's getting a lot more of the ball. If you look at these stats that he got on the weekend, is that sort of indicative of what he's been doing this year. And he's made a very conscious effort to get involved in the play. But I don't think any of that means very much at all, Nicky. When you get the game played, you still got to stop that guy. He's very, very good.
He is very, very good. But what's pleased me is the way our defence has gelled for the past 2 weeks. And it's on the back of the midfield working hard. So it's once again coming down to our midfield. Jacobs being back in some really nice form last week, I think is definitely going to help us. He actually plays Nick Nat not too badly. And Jenkins hasn't done, and Jenkins actually hasn't done too badly against him either, because Jenkins has got quite that nice leap and he just jumps at the same time, which a couple of times I remember in games it's kind of put Nick Nat off a little bit, because there's somebody who can actually get as high as he can.
Yeah, I thought Jacobs is back in form. There was some very exquisite taps over his head and to the side, and he wasn't just heading to the one spot, and he really did our midfield a bit of a ride there, I reckon.
Well, the best way to quell Nat Nui's influence is to make him accountable, and I think Sauce playing as a bit of an extra mid and certainly being a link up in our run from defence, that's going to make Nat Nui accountable, and that's a good way to approach it, I think. I actually think it's going to be a very big game for Kyle Chaney this week. I don't think it's their tools that's going to hurt us. I think it's their mid-sized forwards that are potentially going to hurt us. Lacroix and the other bloke that I can't remember his name. So Lukey Brown, hopefully he's feeling all right. Darling's the other tool. So Hardigan and Tiles will take Darling and Kennedy. But Lacroix, and they've got another bloke that rolls through there that kicks a few goals. I can't remember his name. But Chaney, Lukey Brown, and to a lesser degree Rory Laird are going to have to be very much on their game, because I think that's where the danger lies in their forward line.
No doubt about that. But Nikki was on the money when she said that the midfielder is also part of the key to that forward line. If we more than break even, or at least break even, and preferably a bit more than break even, then I think we will win the game, because if you cut down the supply, if there's no supply, you don't kick goals. So I think that's part of the key to it.
Yeah, and the interesting thing, a point was made on the forum, is that we've kind of had a go at our defence pressing up quite high sometimes, and we seem to have rectified that in the past couple of weeks. The Eagles are very notorious for doing that as well. And I think we've probably got the forward line they really shouldn't be doing that against.
Yeah, I think they're susceptible to our forward line. I don't know whether they match up against us terribly well up forward. And I think that would be the area that Simpson would be spending the most time this week in his pre-match planning.
Yeah, well, not too many teams do match up well on our forward line. I mean, 38 scoring shots from 69 entries is a very, very good strike rate. And it's because we've got this beautiful mix and match talls, mediums and smalls, and they're all very capable of being a match winner on their day. The one thing I would really, really like to see on the weekend is our McGovern take a screamer over their McGovern.
Do you reckon there'd be some family bets going on that one?
I reckon so, and I hope our guy is the one that does it.
Well, considering that Jeremy tweeted a picture of Mitch's first poo when he made his debut, I think there might be a little bit getting back at his brother for that.
Just not right. Not right at all.
Not very tasteful.
Big brother having a go at little brother.
Big time.
Yeah, well, I mean, it'll be a very interesting... It's a season-defining game, I think, for both clubs. I think it's a genuine 8-point game this week. The winner stays in touch with the top four. The loser's back in the pack. Certainly all's not lost if we lose, but what a fillip for the second half of the season if we can get up over there and just jump a game clear of West Coast leading into the bye.
Yeah, their coach Simpson made exactly the same point that you just made then. He said that it is a critical game for both sides, because the one that wins gets right up there with the big boys, and the one that loses falls back in the pack battling for that 8th spot.
Yeah, so probably a final word, Macca. What do you reckon? You reckon we're going to get up?
I'm picking us by 23 points.
Ooh.
How about you, Victoria?
It's got to be that midfield getting on top, and I can see it being a close game. Hopefully our way.
Gee, that sounded a bit on the fence to me. Do you want to be a little bit more concerted about it, Nikki?
I agree with you. Yeah.
I need to be more concerted. How concerted can I be? Now, I can possibly be a little bit concerted this way or a little bit concerted that way. That's all just for big fella who objected to us being concerted on the Sunday podcast. I kind of want to wait to see what they're going to do on selection.
Wow. Fine.
That's fed sitting.
Yeah.
Well, I don't tip until I kind of get that.
All right. Well, I'm feeling very bullish about this week, and I'm not often like that, am I, Nikki? I'm usually a bit hesitant about the Crows, so I don't know whether that's a good or a bad omen. But I really think we're up for this game, and I think it's probably been on the players' minds for the last fortnight. I think the Saints was a game just to get through, and we got through it very well. And I think we're on top of the ground. We don't have too many injury concerns. Tech certainly seems back at his best. We've got Sauce up and about. Our midfield's firing, and our back six are rock solid. So seize the moment, I reckon, and make a real run for the top four. So I'm picking us by 5 goals.
You've sold me. I'll raise my 23 points to 24 now.
Oh, you gained an extra point there, Phoenix.
Well, now, Nikki, just to finish off the cast for this week, because, like all good things, they must come to an end. You'll be pleased to know that your little segment now has some intro music. So here we go with Cockwomble of the Week.
Yeah. Oh, it's been a long time since I've heard that song.
How long ago was the Wombles? Bloody hell.
That was on the ABC.
That was prehistoric.
Oh, that was a thing of beauty. I decided to only go for 2 nominations for this week's Cockwombling Numbnut of the Week because I thought they were head and shoulders above so many others. It wasn't funny. So the 2 we ended up with was Hayden Kennedy for not liking an umpire admitting that they are human and made a mistake. And then Luke Darcy for what I call his Victorian blinkers TM. So Hayden Kennedy objected to Jordan Bannister who went on Twitter after the game and actually admitted, yes, I made a mistake paying that head high free. A lot of people actually thought that was a great thing to do. Hayden Kennedy then came out and goes, oh, yes, it was very nice that he did it and everything, but we don't want it to become a habit. So I'm sorry, Hayden, that unfortunately, umpires are humans and they do make mistakes. And actually admitting that you made a mistake isn't a habit to be disappointed in. It's actually very good. And Luke Darcy, well, the boy really should just stop trying to even pretend he's from South Australia, because when it was reported on Talk Footy that Brisbane had gone for a priority pick, he made the statement that Victorian clubs don't ask for priority picks and they work their way through their troubles. Luke, I think you've kind of forgotten the history of Melbourne, the Western Bulldogs, quite a number of Victorian teams that, have asked for priority picks and have needed a lot of bailouts and help. They don't work through their own mistakes. They get somebody else to come in and fix it for them, and then they continue to make the same mistakes.
I just can't understand Luke Darcy. I mean, does he actually believe some of the shit that comes out of his mouth? Surely to God, he can't say that sort of stuff with a straight face.
Yeah, I heard that, and I thought to myself that you are talking crap.
Well, he actually didn't win in the poll. He actually only got 28% of the vote. Hayden Kennedy got 71% of the vote. Now, Luke, I think, would normally win, but there is an issue with the way that they don't want the umpires, or they actually won't come out and admit that they made a mistake. And I think that's actually doing a huge disservice to the umpires from the AFL umpiring department. And so I'm going to agree with the poll and I'm going to give it to Hayden Kennedy.
Wow, there you go. A boil over as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, Luke's going to say something else.
Oh, well,
he'll get up there again, easily.
It's an interesting little topic, this whole Bannister tweeting thing, because on the surface, you're right. I like the umpires being human and all the rest of it. But it seems to me that the underlying issue there is that there's a little bit of unrest and maybe a little bit of disharmony amongst the fraternity, because for an umpire to basically break protocol, which is what Bannister has done, and do that, suggests that not all is right with the world. And let's not forget that Wayne Campbell was the umpires coach or director. Was he a director? I think it was umpires. Whatever
director.
It's called.
There was Geishan, then him.
Yeah.
And to my mind, since Campbell has moved on to GWS, I think it is, I really think the umpiring has fallen apart a little bit. And this is just now another little page in the chapter since Campbell's left. And I don't know, I think there's some under the surface stuff going on with the umpiring fraternity at the moment.
Bannister's interesting because he's an ex-AFL player. So I think he understands from a player's point of view where they want it to go. And interesting tonight on AFL 360 in Jack Revolt, and he actually said, all we want is consistency.
Yeah.
They were talking about match review reports, etc., and things like this, but he was kind of alluding to the overarching umpiring, that's all the players want.
Yeah, the only problem with apologising for making errors, but some of the performances I've seen this year, Nicky, if they did that on the radio, they'd be talking for about an hour and a half.
Mark Parnell would have to Troy Parnell would have to bloody employ somebody to tweet all his mistakes.
He could write a book.
But that's the thing is, players get told how they've done things wrong, and they have to own up to it, etc. And we actually did see that in the little snippet that the club put out where you had Charlie Cameron going through with David Teague, and he was questioning his decisions. Now, that does happen a little bit with the AFL umpiring, but I don't think they do it as one-to-one like the players have. And I think that's something that's lacking and needs to be fixed.
My first reaction to the whole Bannister thing is I would have preferred him not to tweet. But my underlying reaction is the same as what you said earlier, Nicky, and I think if you polled the entire AFL community, the one word that would come out with regards to the umpiring and what we all want is consistency. And it's not just the umpires. The AFL tweak the rules every week. They deny it, but they always have an interpretation of the week. So there's so many little mechanisms and levers that they can pull and twist and prod to make the game palatable or marketable in their eyes. And I just think things need to be a little bit more cut and dried, and they just need to set the rules at the start of the season and bloody well stick to them. And not only the rules, but the interpretation of the rules as well, because it must drive the bloody players crazy, because it drives the fans crazy.
Yeah, I'd love to see what you said take place, that they set the interpretations in stone at the beginning of the year and that's how it stays. But they should also be sensible interpretations too. I mean, sometimes you got a bloke lying on top of the ball with three players on his back. Well, firstly, how come that's not in the back? And secondly, the only way he can get rid of the ball is to swallow it and expel it out of his backside. I mean, you just can't do it.
You're a bit anally fixated tonight, Macca. What the hell's going on?
Oh, dear.
I'm sorry about that.
I'm just going to steer this back. I actually have some knowledge in terms of umpiring and what happens.
I wonder where you were going with that too, then.
No. I'm steering back onto the conversation we're having, which is really good.
Right.
That change in interpretation drives the umpires nuts as well when it comes through.
I'm sure it does.
And I know that, and this is fact. Yes, this is quite a number of years ago when it used to occur, but I do know a number of people who were AFL umpires at the time. And what used to happen actually was each club got notified that week as to what was going to be focused on, and they got that on the Thursday night.
See, that's just bloody ridiculous.
So they knew beforehand.
Yeah, but I agree with Phoenix on this. It is stupid. Yeah, I mean, if it was a certain way last week, it should be the same way this week.
A rule is a rule is a rule. It shouldn't need focus.
Yeah, and that's why the umpires themselves hated that occurring.
Yeah. Look, and, Macca, you mentioned earlier about the whole pile-on and the bloke on the top. Remember, I think it was at the beginning of last season where they said, or it might have even been the beginning of this season, where they said, but we're going to put more focus on correct tackling. So just because a guy's on the ground doesn't mean it stacks on and he gets done holding the ball. Well, that lasted about 5 minutes. And now we're back to stacks on again. It's not football. It's bloody rugby at that point. And so many guys get hit hard or hit high or in the back or whatever, and they get done for holding the ball when they're basically pinned to the deck. It's not logical, and it detracts from the spectacle in my view.
Yeah, you see them, as you say, they're pinned to the deck, and they might be even held in a bloody headlock, and they still go for holding the ball.
Yep. And obviously now we got the ducking thing, and I think the ducking thing's a pretty easy one to officiate if you've got half a brain. And obviously, Jordan Bannister called himself out on a particularly bad blue that he made. But I think it's very cut and dried. If the player initiates contact, whether it's by ducking or whether it's by dropping the knees or whether it's by shrugging the shoulders, it's bloody play on. It's as simple as that.
Agreed.
Yep.
Anyway. Well, I
Feel
reckon
better now?
No, not really. I'll be better after my prediction of the weekend's come about and we're sitting about 5th or 6th on the ladder. That'll be good.
That'd be nice.
That will be nice. But on that note, I reckon we might just hang up the boots ourselves and call it a night. It's been a really fun night tonight and great to have Jake Lever on board. We thank again the club for making players available to us and Jake for his time. Thanks, Macca and Nikki, for joining us.
Pleasure, as always.
And
no problems.
Thanks to Peter for his work at the beginning, and good luck for the next couple of weeks, mate. In the meantime, we'll see you all on Thursday night for Scorpus's preview. Farewell.
Good night, all.